So I'm outside. I took a day on the patio, decided to do a bit of roasting, and I'm just going to set up the Sandbox Smart. I've got the other camera set up to video it, but I'm using the mic here, so I'm going to set it up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roast a Deterra, 150 grams, same as I roasted yesterday. This is the history. I'm going to use this profile. And how I can do that, there are multiple ways of using the same profile, but I can go into the history, click that button. I can then, I've got a number of options here. One is to share the profile at the bottom. The middle one here gives me access to the profile, which you can see, which allows me then to say start. And the roaster's starting to preheat. And I'm going to turn the mic of this off now and move, because I'm turning my camera on. So the Sandbox Smart is preheating now. You can just see my phone here, which is recording. So I don't actually need to show you because I'm actually recording this phone screen, but I'll just leave it there anyway. The phone is allowing me to monitor the preheat process. So I'm 33%, 69°C, I'm outside. From cold, this can often take up to 5 minutes to preheat, but when I do a second roast, often the preheat is just a few minutes because I don't allow it to cool down. I don't do the full cool down. Maybe I should, but I don't, and I haven't found a problem. So preheat's up to 190, so we're at 100°C. We'll see how long this takes. I'm outside. I've done some exposure compensation, so certain things are going to appear very bright because I want you to be able to see the roaster, and this is the cooling tray on the left. So what I'll do, we'll come back to the video after the preheat and we'll see how we're going. Okay, so I don't think there's a way of pausing. I don't really use the camera now, but what I'm going to do is stop this and we'll come back to it later. So we're coming up to pretty much the preheat time, about 5 minutes. So the phone tells me preheat is finished. The next thing I have to do is open the door. Now I use Nomex gloves. The drum is cold, so I only need one. Sometimes I preheat with the drum in, but today's not necessary, I don't think. I'm not sure it's ever necessary. Stay okay and hit start. Now the roaster will now just continue to roast. It won't need my input, and it will chart the roast for me on the smartphone. I could go into manual mode, but if you do, you've got to actually then suddenly control everything manually, and manual mode comes up with these sliders all, I think, set at 0, so suddenly you've got to rush about trying to quickly set the sliders, and I just don't think there's a need to use manual mode, with one exception, and that is when you're roasting a bean for the first time. Well, it's not manual mode. When you're roasting the bean for the first time and you're setting up for this roast, it's actually quite a good idea to have a profile, have 3 profiles, dark, medium and light, but have them set up, and you'll understand this as you read the rest of the review. Have them set up with a very long time after first crack, a couple of minutes, maybe a bit more, from when you press first crack on here, so indicate first crack, so that you're not going to let the roast run that long, but what you're going to do is you're going to stop the roast at a sort of different juncture each time, and you say it's set for 2 minutes and you stop it after 60 seconds because first crack run, it started, you heard it run for a minute and then it stopped, and then you thought, well, if I want to go pretty dark I'll go another 30 or 40 seconds, maybe another minute, then I'll stop it. You can actually stop your roast early using the stop function, work out how many minutes less than the profile you did. You can look and see if that roast is good or not, and if it's good roast, you could say, okay, I need to make a profile and adjust it for 70 seconds after first crack, or 80. Or if you say that's a bit dark, I'd like it a bit lighter, you can say, well, next time I'm going to stop it at 50 or 60 or even 40 and set up a profile like that and see how you go. So it can be useful for sort of testing out a new bean. I didn't need to do that because I've roasted this Deterra before. I've got 150 grams in the roaster. I have another 150 grams here, ready to roast, which as soon as the drum comes out, the reason I got the board is I don't want to put the drum on my resin table, so the drum will go on the side while I load the new beans in. And the cooler is here. It's great for getting rid of chaff, and this is a really chaffy bean. I just noticed the umbrella's whizzing round and actually the handle's touching the roaster, so I'm going to move it fractionally over so the handle can't scratch the side of the roaster. So I'll do that by lifting and gently moving, and now the handle is there. The handle is now completely clear of the roaster. I didn't realise it was doing that. And I've probably already got so that's roasting nicely. I can smell the various roasting smells. This is like sort of hay or cooking wheat, if you like. And this is the coffee starting to change. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the phone I'm going to stop the video at this point, because really there's nothing to see for a few minutes, and I'll come back near a first crack, which you can't see the temperature, but this is recording the screen. It's about 197, 98 on this roaster. So I'm going to stop this video now. We'll go back to the smartphone screen and I'll come back later. Okay, we can see a little bit of smoke out the left of the roaster. Hard to see because we're approaching first crack. Some of that will be the chaff burning off and the bean getting ready for first. Now, I didn't preheat the drum on this roast, so it's probably likely to be, to preheat the actual drum the beans are in. And it's the first roast, so it's always going to be a tiny bit slower than subsequent roasts, but we'll probably see that anyway when I do the second roast. So you can probably just see the smoke they're exiting at the left hand side. It's not too bad. A cooker hood actually takes care of it. Even my particularly rubbish cooker hood seems to extract it not too bad. And my cooker hood's really not very good. It doesn't extract very well. They use too long a pipe and too many bends for it to extract well. Got my little mate Ernie the cat rolling around. So I'm almost just heard first crack. I'm going to press the countdown. It's a very soft bean for first, but you saw the increase in smoke. You can probably hear the snapping. But as you can see, at first you get a big increase in smoke. And how I've set this profile, if I'm using the right one, is I get the heat right down to 40%. But this sort of the terror I'm roasting, it actually likes the heat to be right down, because at first, the beans don't need very much heat at all. They start not producing their own internal heat, but they need much less heat. They sort of become far less endothermic, as we call it. And it's going to end in 9 seconds, so I'm going to get ready for that. Now, I turn my cooling fan on in preparation. So it's saying, please take out drum, which you do first. Take your drum out. Oh, beans in the cooling tray. We'll pick up those strays. It's because I'm looking out at the camera. Spread them about. I get the new beans. Put them in the drum. Glove off. and I use Nomex gloves, not the supplied ones. Click OK, and it's saying cooling. Well, I'm going to stop the cooling. I'm going to use the same profile again, so I'll use mine, same profile. I'm going to start, but this time, because I didn't complete the full cool down, the preheat isn't going to take anywhere near as long. The drum will be slightly warmer and ready to load into the roaster. Now these beans don't take very long, in fact they're already stone cold. It cools really, really fast. So these are ready. Let's take them out. And let's see if you can see them. The cooling tray bottom itself is hot, but I don't know if you can see those. They've come out really, really well. There's a lot of chaff on this bean. And what I often do is I'll actually take this and shake it and just work chaff off the bean, especially for this bean. There we go. Now the next thing to do is take it to the airscape container, pop them in. I'll do that now. Find my airscape. Hot in the sun. Beans go into the airscape. Oh, before I do, weigh the airscape. And then put the beans in. And we've got 130.8 grams of beans from 150 gram start. Now the roaster's saying, I've done my preheat, load my coffee in. Remember this drum is hot. Keep my brush the chaff away from the door. Pop it in. Yes, I've finished. And let's start another Daterra roast. So it's 130.8 grams, which means I can actually record that weight into my roast history later on and take a photo of it. Let's go into the app here. No, can't do that now, so I have to enter that when this roast is finished. So I've got to remember 130.8 grams, and I'll get a picture of it. So we're going to leave the roasting now on the main video. I'll leave the app recording on the phone. Now again, I've come back to the roaster because we're sort of 7 minutes 20 seconds in, 170 degrees C. You can start to see some smoke coming. That'll be a combination of chaff and roasting. But you'll actually see more smoke as we get closer to first crack. But that won't be until, like I say, about 196, 97. I can't really look at the history. I should have noted it down, but I didn't bother because I've roasted this bean a couple of times before. But as you can see, it's the sort of smoke, it is windy, so obviously it helps clear it, but it's the sort of smoke that a cooker hood can handle. For me, it's just really nice to roast outside on the patio, to be honest. And I really can't say how pleased I am this Daterra, you know, it's really, you probably can't see it, but it's come out really, really good. Really happy with that. And when I input the weight in the roast history, 130.8, it'll actually calculate the percentage loss for me, which is quite nice. We're 11 minutes 36 seconds, 195. We're going to be nearing first soon, and I think from memory that's probably a good minute faster than before. The great thing is, because you mark first on the application, it doesn't actually matter, because it always goes from a known point and in roasting first crack. So I'm just hearing it there, just about. One swallow doesn't make a summer. There we go. Yeah. So I'm starting the countdown again, and as you can see, we're about a minute, maybe a little more, faster. But because I'm pressing indicating first, that's a known point in bean roasting. That means this roast should be pretty much the same as that roast. The only thing will have taken a little bit longer to get there in the early part of the roast. Depending on how much of that happened in the Maillard phase or not, may slightly affect the roast, I don't know. But as you can see, much more smoke because we're first crack. Countdown 16 seconds. What'll happen, this takes me to just about the end of first, very close to the end of first. And there we go. And it allows for the time it takes me to get my gloves on, get the drum out, which takes a moment. Here we go. I'm going to try my other gloves. I've been meaning to try these thinner gloves here to see if I burn myself. So if I start cursing, you'll know it got pretty hot. These are like similar to TIG welding gloves, and I don't know how they'll take the heat. Yeah, not enough. I'm going to go back to the Nomex. So yeah, I can strongly recommend Nomex cooking gloves like this as being easier. Open up the tray. Tip the beans in. And why I do it over the tray and close to the tray is it helps get the chaff all going into the tray, so it doesn't make too much of a mess. I've probably got a bean stuck there. I'd like to get him out. There he is. He's out. Now I'm not going to do any more roasting. I'll put that away. I'll brush the chaff off, and I give it a brush inside to get the chaff going down through the grid into the tray. You're probably meant to empty it every roast. I don't bother. I'll leave the door partly open. I'm not sure whether it should be open or closed, because the fan is obviously dragging air across the electronics, so I sort of just push it to. I'm not in a hurry to cool it down. Press the application and the roaster is now cooling. A lot of this cooling is probably for the electronics as well. And these beans are already cold. That's it, already done. So I can stop now. This cooler's fantastic. Give it a shake. Get rid of the rest of the chaff. Because I don't find chaff adds anything to the bean. And the chaff has been in there with all the smoke, so I like to get rid of it. Now, here's the roast, and again, lovely looking roast, if you can see it. Absolutely beautiful looking roast. I'm going to add it into the scales, which I'll turn on. And let's see, and they're exactly the same as the previous beans colour wise. 131.4, 131, no, 130. Oh, it's varying. Probably because the scales are in the sun. I would say this is about 131. So the second roast, 131. So it's 0.2 more. Now what the application allows you to do is to actually, I'd have to stop cooling, so I'll wait, but it will actually allow me to go in and take a photo of the beans. So I'll come back when we're going to do that. Okay, so I've got the app running. I go to history, and I'm just going to take a picture. I could do it on the first one, but I'm just going to do it on the combined bean. So you go into the app, you take a photo. Now it's very difficult, the light here is so wrong. Anyway, there's a photo of my beans to remind me of what I got. I can make a note. To make a note, I've actually got to go into the edit, make a note here, nice roast. You put whatever you want in, and then finish that note. Now the other thing I can do here, if I go into edit again, I can actually say, well look, the raw bean was 150 grams and the roast bean was 100 and, let's say it's 130.8, and and I'm going to put it in at 130, 131, because let's say that's pretty much, well in fact I'll put 130.9, something in between, and it's going to tell me, it's going to calculate for me what the percentage, and lost weight ratio is 12.7%. So you can actually keep an eye on that, see how things are developing.